Hello everyone, I am Nivedita Jena from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation. Welcome to all of you to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. So today the topic is about the ecosystem stability and the types of ecosystems. So let's start. So first we have to know that what is ecosystem stability. The cybernetic systems produce stable systems and emerging challenges in ecosystem ecology is to improve our understanding of the properties and processes that allow ecosystem to persist in the face of environmental change. So, what is a cybernetic system? As we discussed earlier in the previous part of this topic, the ecosystem are rich in information networks, including physical and chemical communication flows that connect all parts and steer or regulate the system as a whole. Accordingly, ecosystems can be considered cybernetic in nature. The science of cybernetics, as founded by Robert Wiener, embraces both inanimate and animate controls. The mechanical feedback mechanisms are often called servo mechanisms by engineers, whereas biologists use the phrase homeostatic mechanisms to refer to organismic systems. The cybernetic central functioning unit is the whole system, a complex entity that uses information feedback to regulate internal processes that maintain equilibrium. And control functions in ecosystems are internal and diffuse rather than external and specified, as in human engineered cybernetic devices. So, the ecological stability, an issue that has intrigued ecologists for decades. So, what constitutes stability is, however, difficult to define. Despite the wide range of definitions, some fundamental concepts have emerged that provide a basis for discussing ecosystem responses to change. The perturbation. It is an external force that displaces the system from equilibrium. The response of a system to perturbation describes the direction and magnitude of change in the system after a perturbation, and the resistance of a system describes its tendency to remain in its reference state in the face of a perturbation. In ecological terms, resistance is the capacity of a system to maintain certain structures and functions despite disturbances. And the resistance of an ecosystem to perturbation depends on the nature, magnitude, and duration of the perturbation as well as on the nature of the system. The ecosystem are often particularly vulnerable to new types of disturbances that they have not previously experienced. So, the recovery of a system describes the extent to which it turns to its original state after perturbation. An ecosystem recovers if negative feedbacks that resist changes in ecosystem properties are stronger than positive feedbacks that push the ecosystem towards some new state. The recovery of an ecosystem depends on the magnitude of the response and the time since the perturbation. And the ecosystem that show a high degree of stability may have different combinations of resistance and resilience. So types of ecosystem. There is a great diversity in the type of actual ecosystems. Depending upon their nature, size, and components, ecosystems can be distinguished into small and large, complete and incomplete, temporary and permanent. So, the natural and artificial ecosystems which develop under natural conditions without any human support are called natural ecosystems, For example, a pond, a lake, a meadow, a desert, a grassland, a hillside, etc. On the other hand, ecosystems made, controlled, or modified by humans in terms of inputs, outputs, and interactions in the ecosystem are called artificial or domesticated ecosystems. Examples of artificial ecosystems include modern cities, crop fields, orchards, gardens, aquariums, dams, spaceships, social forest, industrial green belts, and biospheres to etc. And the temporary and permanent ecosystem. On the basis of duration of their existence, ecosystems can be differentiated into temporary and permanent. So the ecosystems which are short-lived are called temporary ecosystems. For example, rainfed pond and laboratory culture of protozoans. And self-supporting natural ecosystems which can support themselves for a relatively long period of time are called permanent ecosystems. For example, a forest and a lake, etc. Then the complete and incomplete ecosystems, which contain all the four basic components, that is, the abiotic substances, producers, consumers, and decomposers, are called complete ecosystems. For example, forest, lake, river, etc. And certain ecosystems, however, may not contain all the four components and may lack in one or more of them. Such ecosystems are called incomplete ecosystems. For example, the caves, because of darkness, lack the producers or green plants but contain only consumers and decomposers. Then we are going to discuss about some major types of natural ecosystem. So the first one is marine ecosystem. Of the total water available on planet Earth, about 97.2% is found in the oceans. The marine water together cover more than 70% of the Earth's surface. The oceans occupy a volume 15 times greater than that of land, and each ocean indeed represents a very large ecosystem which is much more stable compared to a freshwater ecosystem. The marine waters are characterized by high concentration of salt minerals in solution, derived from the Earth's crust. The salts of sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, sulfur, boron, etc. constitute the minerals of the seawater. The salinity in open sea averages to around 5.5% but differs slightly at various depths and with latitudes. And the more important physical factors which affect the marine life are light, temperature, pressure, salinity, tides, and currents. And the marine environment exhibits definite zonation on the basis of its shape and also the penetration of light into the marine ecosystem on the basis of its shape, its depths. The following zones are generally recognized in oceans. So the continental shelf, this is the gradually sloping region extending from the coastline to an average of 160 km into the sea. This zone has a depth of about 8 to 200 meters. Then coming to the estuarine ecosystem, there are ecosystems in which fresh water from the rivers meets with the ocean water, the two being mixed by tides. The degree of mixing depends upon the morphology of the estuary basin, the volume of fresh water flow, and the amount of tidal inflow. These ecosystems are not as salty as ocean water, but more so as fresh water. In different parts of the estuary, salinity keeps changing, from 0.1% to 5.4%, and the estuaries form a transition zone between river environments and ocean environments and are subject to both marine influences such as tides, waves, and the influx of saline water, and riverine influences such as flows of fresh water and sediment. The temperature, water currents, dissolved oxygen, and carbon dioxide are all subject to climate. The estuarine producers such as the phytoplankton, seaweeds, marsh grass, etc., are capable of year-round photosynthesis, and the animal community is dominated by a bottom fauna of crabs, shellfish, and annelids. Sharks, dolphins, rays, and more marine forms move into estuaries for feeding during certain seasons. The freshwater ecosystem. These are the inland water ecosystems. Nearly 6% of described species are supported by freshwater systems. They are again differentiated into standing water ecosystem, which is lentic, running water ecosystem, which is lotic, and wetland groundwater, a large freshwater reservoir and an essential resource for humans, is not generally thought of as an ecosystem because it contains little or no life except sometimes bacteria. And the groundwater does interconnect with all three major above ground freshwater ecosystems and is thereby an important part of the input and output environments of lentic, clotic, and wetland ecosystems. So the lentic water ecosystems, these are the freshwater ecosystems with standing bodies of water. Two main examples are the lakes and ponds. They vary in size from less than a hectare to several hundred hectares and maybe a few to over 100 meters deep. And the lentic ecosystems exist across the globe and provide essential resources and habitats for both terrestrial and aquatic organisms. Although it is widely distributed and vital for many species, including humans, these habitats account for just over 3% of the Earth's surface. And an important characteristic of lentic habitats is their connection with terrestrial systems. Indeed, many species depend on both aquatic and terrestrial habitats due to their complex life cycles. As such, energy moves dynamically between the two systems. And then the low-tech water ecosystem refers to flowing or running water ecosystems. This include the rivers, creeks, brooks, streams, etc. And these ecosystems differ widely from each other in respect to the speed of water flow and in respect to all the major abiotic and biotic factors. And the water chemistry between systems varies tremendously, and the chemistry is foremost determined by inputs from the geology of its watershed or catchment area, but can also be influenced by precipitation and the addition of pollutants from human sources. And the lotic ecosystems are affected by the rate of water flow, which depends on the slope of the stream and the volume of water flowing, and the flow rate will determine if the stream or river scores the bottom of the stream or leaves sediments, and many animals are adapted to streams with particular flow rates and will not live in faster or slower water. And then the wetlands. The wetland is a land area that is saturated with water where the water fluctuates up and down, often seasonally as well as annually, and it goes on to take the characteristics of a distinct ecosystem. Define a wetland as a pulse stabilized fluctuating water level ecosystems. It is an ecosystem that arises when inundation by water produces soils dominated by anaerobic processes, which in turn forces the biota, particularly rooted plants, to adapt to flooding. Primarily, the factor that distinguishes wetlands from other landforms or water bodies is the characteristics of vegetation, which supports aquatic plants. They occur naturally on every continent except Antarctica. Thank you.